Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in TradFi, digital assets, technology, and financial planning. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining me on the desk this afternoon, we have Rasha Katabi, CEO and founder of Brim Financial, Tom Warsop, President and Chief Executive Officer of ACI Worldwide, as well as John Caplan, Chief Executive Officer of Payoneer, to discuss the modernization of payments and what it means for the global economy. It is great to have everyone on the desk with us this afternoon. Welcome to Trade Talks. I want to kick it off with you, John. How has the modernization of payment systems impacted global trade and economic growth?
It is first great to be here and to be with all of you today. You know, this is, I think probably all three of us will agree, it's an extraordinary moment in global payments, in cross-border payments. The amount of innovation and creativity that's solving the needs of business owners around the world is extraordinary. For Payoneer, we are by far the leader in helping small business owners in 190 countries do business globally with a simple global financial operating system, a multi-currency account where all of their international accounts receivable and their international accounts payable happen. And what's important about, when you ask the question about modernization of payment system, global trade is the lifeblood of the global economy. Cross-border trade is what makes possible the free flow of ideas, of information, of goods. Our world needs that. Unfortunately, the banking system, as we all know, was designed for the wealthy countries and the wealthy big businesses, but not for emerging markets, for fast-growing economies, or for small businesses. And when we talk to our customers, we have 2 million customers around the globe in 190 countries. What they need is cross-border exports. They want to sell their capability to the world. If you're an entrepreneur in Vietnam, or in Morocco, in China, or in Argentina, you wake up every day thinking, how do I get customers around the globe? And if you're looking for supply, or capability, or workers and employees, I think most of our companies are employing people around the globe. Because with 7.5 billion people on the planet, you want to find the best workers to do whatever job you need doing. And you know, cross-border trade, I think, is the essence of where the economy's going. The banking system wasn't designed that way, and it's why companies like Payoneer are really, our financial stack is what people need in order to do business globally.
Right, and that's, we have to get out of this Western way of thinking, whether it's the US or other Western
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, because we take it for granted.
Yeah,
we don't think about these things.
We do, and John was mentioning earlier, it really made me think. He said, you know, there's this very American way, North American way of looking at commerce, and if you're like me and grew up in the United States, in the Midwest, and you think about the size of the US market, if you're a small business in the US, you don't need to think about cross-border at all if you don't want to, because the market's big enough. You can make money. I think, John, you said you can get rich.
You can get rich, but Philly, if you could start a business in Philly and drive to DC and New York, there's enough demand for you to like send your kids to college and have a big house and achieve your dreams.
Yeah, but John, you can't do that. You can't do that if you are in Hanoi or in, you know, pick your place around the world. There are many, many places where you have to do business in a cross-border way. And you actually, I mean, I've lived all over the world. I thought I'd lost some of my American background. Maybe I haven't, because you made a very important point.
You know, and I think when we think about it, something you're seeing certainly in your business, right, is the simplifying the tools in a fair and simple way to do, priced fairly, and something that's really important, that costs, you know, be reasonable for our customers, right? Small business owners don't want to be paying exorbitant fees. It's one of the benefits of the Payoneer platform. You don't want to spend a lot of money, and you want enterprise-grade tools that enable you to do business. It shouldn't be the banking systems in the way of your success. Your own capability and opportunity.
And you know, John, you just said that the banking system was built for the large banks and the rich and the large companies. So we have concentration right here in our backyard. So this question of access and being able to grow and have an economy thrive, mid-market is where it's at. And that's what we need to actually empower. And whether they are our mid-market regional community banks, or whether they are our small businesses, mid-market, you know, below the Walmart of the world, et cetera, you have a lack of services, capabilities, and access to support here, right here in North America. And so, and so very much cross-border, as well as right here in North America, which is what we focus on at Brim, bringing payment modernization and platform modernization to our banks and our small businesses, right here to enable them to grow their businesses seamlessly.
Yeah. But I think, you asked the question about how has the modernization of payment systems impacted global trade and economic growth. So my educational background is as an economist, so I think about this all the time, and it's about the velocity of money. How quickly can you move money from one place to another and allow it to multiply? And in the past, if you think about how money got between countries, it was you stuffed it in your suitcase, hopefully for good reasons, and or you sent it by Western Union, or you sent it. There are many ways you could get the money across. Now it's becoming faster, easier, much less expensive, and that's fueling a much higher money multiplier.
Right, so John, stay with me here. Let's talk more about that, and I want to ask you about this as well, John. How do digital payment platforms contribute to this idea of financial inclusion, particularly developing countries?
Yeah, so I was in India last week, and India is the largest real-time payments market in the world by far. Unofficial numbers, but what I was told last week is 116 billion transactions, real-time transactions, happened in India. Now, the really cool thing about that is you don't need a bank account to use UPI, which is the Indian real-time platform. You can use it exclusively in your wallet on your smartphone, and that has opened up the ability to have electronic payments for an entirely different segment of the population. People that are underbanked or unbanked can get some of the same benefits and contribute to that economic growth. And everywhere you go in India, you see these little placards in the shops, and they say, it's got a QR code, pay with UPI. And so you can pay right now. I have the money, it's on my phone, I can pay. I do not have to carry a bunch of cash, and I don't have to worry about devaluation. I mean, India not so much, but we were talking about Argentina before, massive devaluation. You don't have to worry as much about that. So it's a really exciting thing, and to the inclusion perspective, these changes are giving access to services to people that have never had it before.
I think this financial inclusion is a really important question, and Joe, I'm so glad you asked, because when you think about what financial inclusion means, it means geographic inclusion, it means the idea of having access to the tools you need. It also, connections create opportunity. If you are not included in the global economy, you don't get to sell your products, source, share ideas, participate. And I think what we saw with the sharing of information with the internet over the last 20 years and the supply chain modernization, which we're currently seeing disrupted in the Red Sea, but the supply chain modernization, the movement of money, the modernization of how money moves means more people, more opportunity for more local communities around the globe. And certainly our data suggests over 70% of small businesses, the number one thing they want to do globally is sell abroad.
Right.
Because they know the demand is there. And so being included in the opportunities means you might not have a good product and you'll fail, but it's not going to be that the walls are preventing you the opportunity. And for me, that's really optimistic about what the future looks like.
And of course, Tom, speaking of that, you also want instant access to your money, particularly a small business where they don't have the means to necessarily float.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I was talking about real-time payments, and today, it's still quite difficult to do a real-time or instant payment cross-border. There are a few examples where there are bilateral agreements between governments, but I think over time what we're going to see is there will be, those bilateral agreements will somehow morph into a global standard, and it'll start to be easier, quicker, and less expensive.
How long do you think that's going to take?
Well, it's going to take a while because it's government, right? And understandably, they're trying to protect their citizens and make sure the money is appropriately moved and all. Totally understand that, but I think that's the only bottleneck. The regulation is the only bottleneck because technologically, I think all of us could describe exactly how money can move instantly today from one country to another. That is not a problem. It's a regulatory issue. It will get solved. I don't know. I wish I knew. But I think it'll be years.
So, Rasha, let's talk about this, something that does have regulation around it. What role will credit cards play in a more open global economy?
Yeah, it's, being able to do RTP is meaning that you have your money in the bank right now. And then you're going to be able to clear it right away. So we believe, banking is there for a reason. In order, there is a big flow between deposits and loans as an asset. So credit is here to stay. How do you actually distribute credit? It's to actually have credit card platforms that, are evolving from how we used to think about credit cards, and really think about them as the rails to affect payments, not necessarily clearing the payment right away. And really it enables you to disassociate the clearing of the funds from actually doing the transaction. And in that, they become a hugely important part of banking. And so what we look around us here in North America, we see that you have the large money center banks, and they're at the forefront of capabilities and et cetera in that space. But then you have all the entire rest of the stack on the banking landscape, and it's trailing. And it's trailing because it's a large technology lift to be able to roll it out within your ecosystem, fully embedded, et cetera. And that's where we at Brim pay attention and play a big role. We're thrilled that actually MasterCard announced a strategic partnership with us in December for all of the US go-to-market and credit card platform as a service embedded within banks, regionals, communities, et cetera, to enable consumer banking, business banking, mid-market, and large commercial.
What about security, Tom, in the modern world of global payments?
Well, I think it's no secret, when you're dealing with payments, it's money. And bad guys are really bad. They're very smart, and they're very well funded. The last report I read said that cyber financial crime is going to be the largest industry in the world within the next few years.
Oh, it's well funded too.
Yeah, very well funded, naturally so, because the profit margins are extraordinarily high. So you have to really think through how do you do your very best to block the bad guys. And now, are you ever going to be able to block 100%? No, because they're very smart. They're going to be constantly pushing, but you have to build in the tools and techniques and the services to prevent bad transactions, fraud, from the beginning. So as you build the infrastructure, you need to build in fraud detection and prevention, for example. And especially when you start talking about real-time payments, any kind of payment where there's no recourse. The money's gone, it's gone. Obviously, you have to be extremely careful about that. And the good news is, as I go around the world, and my company facilitates 32 real-time payments platforms or schemes around the world with our software. And as I go around, the central banks understand this, of course, and they are doing, I think, a pretty good job of thinking through how do we build as much protection in as we can. But these very well-funded, very smart bad actors, they're going to keep pushing, and so it's going to be a constant battle.
Just to add to that, I think there's a piece of it though, which is the companies themselves, companies like Payoneer and all of ours, making the commitment, the regulatory commitment, which obviously we had, the compliance commitment, which we have, but partnering with law enforcement. The idea that sitting at the table with law enforcement to root out bad actors, to find the opportunities together, to stay as far in front of it is super important, and something we make a top priority in our organization.
Yeah, and we think their data and intelligence and down to the transaction and to the entity actually doing the transaction is very important. So we at Brim, from a technology play perspective, we really focus on databases and our own. So machine learning and what you learn about the behavior, the trends, etc. So to be able to, in real time, prevent the fraud from happening.
Yeah, well, let's focus on that. We have about 5 minutes to go here, so I want to talk about the future of financial services, because of course you have competing interests with business priorities. Revenue teams want to get it out there, your product teams certainly want to get it out there, but you also need to think about the cyber factor. You don't want that cyber breach, which reputational damage, you don't want to cut off revenue. So I want to go around the horn here. Let's start with you, John. AI and machine learning, a lot of bad people are doing a lot of bad things with it, and cyber teams and payment platforms are doing a lot of really good things with it. So how do you see AI and ML shaping the future of financial services?
So inside our organization, we saw a 25% reduction in our cost to serve per ticket with the use of the generational AI work that we've implemented in 2023, which drove down cost to serve 5% overall in the organization. We're starting in our sort of support organization first and using the data to make our reps more effective, looking at our information, getting the right information in a human's hands so they can make judgments about the behavior. You know, we have very sophisticated looks at the network effects of where money's coming, who's touching the money, and we're looking at the AI to help us move faster with that information. I'd say that's where we're starting.
So three use cases for us. One is fraud prevention and detection. The other is customer service, and then the third is software development. So on the fraud detection and prevention, we've been using it for a decade. And we have a number of patents about how we train our models, because with AI, it's all about how you train your model and how quickly you can refresh the model. So we're able to train our model without taking it offline. So that's one way, very, very effective, identify patterns. Second is customer service, similar to what you said. We have armed our customer service representatives with every piece of documentation that's ever been done, every wiki question, and they can tap it with simple plain English questions. And then the third, software development, we've actually seen where we've implemented fully our AI techniques, we have seen up to a 15x productivity improvement in development and testing of software.
That's great.
Yeah. Most definitely. So agree with what you both have said. We focus as well on internal, John, to echo what you're saying. And we at Brim have data going down to the entity and to the transaction. It makes our generative AI a little bit more informed and therefore a little bit more prescient. And that's where we're seeing a very massive impact on fraud.
Yeah, and I thought you brought up a great point as well, John, where AI isn't replacing the decision making, whether you're talking about it in payments, whether you're talking about it in design or media, healthcare, legal, tax. It's there as a tool so that you can work on more complex projects, because as AI stands right now, it's still the person that's going to make that judgment call. Fact of the matter is, AI is nothing new in your businesses.
No, it feels like the birth of email, right?
Right.
We may all at this table, in fact, be old enough to remember working when there wasn't email.
Right.
And all of a sudden, email put information in your hands, so you could move faster and make decisions.
Yeah.
Now, AI on top of that sort of puts us in a position that smart people are even smarter and moving faster, and that's good for companies like Payoneer.
Yeah, our applications of AI are all human in the loop. So you do as much as you practically can, but a human being has to make the final decision.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from a creative perspective, I mean, whether you're talking about the technology, the marketing, the advertising, your sales reps, it's always going to come down to people being able to judge other people. We were talking about this in the green room before. It's a very different experience when you're doing this with people versus, Zoom's a great, amazing tool. We get all that. We can let people from all over the world join on Trade Talks, but there is something different when you have people like physically in the equation.
The table.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end that on a positive note with people. Thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me from MarketSite. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.